easy for me to say this, and I would not advise it unless the situation did not call for it, but if the phone rings during this segment, answer it. Yes, even if you don't have DVR. Now, why would I say that? What kind of phone call could possibly surpass the awesomeness that is Countdown? Would you believe you may get a phone call from Sarah Palin? Our fourth story tonight is the McCain-Palin campaign for robocalls or against them, or just for the ones that they make and against the one Obama makes. At Wednesday's debate, Mr. McCain said nobody cares about, quote, washed-up terrorist Bill Ayers, despite McCain's repeated attempts to make Ayers, now a respected professor who also pals around with Republicans, an issue in the campaign. The very next day, an official McCain campaign robocall, call on tape, automatically dialed, trying to tie Barack Obama to the same washed-up terrorist McCain had just claimed no one cared about. It went out to as many as a dozen battleground states based on anecdotal reports from recipients, some of whom tell Huffington Post their children got the calls and were scared by the suggestion that their next president might be a terrorist. On Sunday, McCain was called on the calls by Fox News. No, seriously. Which admirably pointed out to McCain that he opposed the tactic when it was used against him in a scurrilous attack by the Bush campaign in 2000 by operatives who are now on the McCain payroll making his robocalls. McCain stood by his robocalls. The moral difference? Well, these are his calls, of course. McCain's washed-up terrorist, G. Gordon Liddy, unlike Ayers, was still calling for violence against U.S. law enforcement officials as recently as the 90s, but that apparently does not count, presumably because McCain and Liddy are real Americans from real America. Last night, Palin was asked about McCain's robocalls, about whether she would use them if she were running the campaign.
If I could wave a magic wand, I would be sitting at a kitchen table with more and more Americans, talking to them about our plan to get the economy back on track and winning the war, and not having to rely on the old conventional ways of campaigning that includes those robocalls. In terms of Americans' attention span, they get a bit irritated with just being inundated. And you're seeing a lot of that, of course, with the huge amounts of money that Barack Obama is able to spend on these ads and on his robocalls also.
Several senators, Republican senators, have said that the McCain campaign should end the robocalls. Do you think the same thing?
I'm not calling for an end to the robocalls, no.
Despite saying she would not use them, despite calling them irritating to Americans, the McCain campaign today insisted that Palin's refusal to call on McCain to stop using them indicates she was not condemning them, and that Obama was wrong in how he characterized her remarks at one of his events today.
We've seen it before, and we're seeing it again. Ugly phone calls, misleading mail, misleading TV ads, careless, outrageous comments, all aimed at keeping us from working together, all aimed at stopping change. It's getting so bad that even Senator McCain's running mate denounced his tactics last night. You know, you really have to work hard to violate Governor Palin's standards on negative campaigning.
Of course, the McCain campaign is right in that Palin did not denounce the calls for their negativity. She just didn't like robocalls, period. Which leaves us wondering if she just doesn't like robocalls. Then what the hell is this new robocall?
Hi, this is Sarah Palin. One of our local campaign volunteers just called you, and I wanted to follow up and ask for your support. You know, our opponents may talk a lot. They haven't done much listening. John McCain and I know our country is hurting, and we know how to turn it around. We'll get our economy back on track. We'll cut your taxes and lower prices at the pump and at the grocery store. John McCain and I are the Mavericks who will reform Washington, Wall Street, and all the wasteful government in between. I hope John McCain and I can count on on November 4th. We won't let you down.
Is it not the wonder of the age that you can be told the other candidates may talk a lot, but they haven't done much listening, by a pre-recorded voice that cannot possibly listen?